Life is full of cruel irony, and tonight we focus on one that could have been avoided. This is the story of two countries, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Both finance terrorists, both provide them with safe havens, both are linked to major terror attacks like 9/11 in America and 26/11 in Mumbai, and now both these countries may be controlling the United Nations Office for Counter Terrorism. What gives? This is the story of another United Nations sham. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have an illustrious record when it comes to terrorism. Pakistan is a state sponsor of terror, the global headquarters. Saudi Arabia has been a passive sponsor of terrorism. And now, between the two of them, they control the United Nations office that is supposed to deal with international cooperation on terrorism. This is according to a new report that gives specific names and charges. 2 points stand out. Number one, Saudi Arabia wants to influence counter-terrorism efforts at the United Nations through big donations, big money. And number two, an international civil servant of Pakistani origin is the director of this branch of the UN. His name is Jahangir Khan, and he's said to be close to both the Saudis and the Pakistanis. First, let's talk about the money. In 2011, the United Nations created the Counter Terrorism Center. It has a specific purpose: to promote cooperation for anti-terrorism efforts and support member states. And from day one, Saudi Arabia has been the biggest donor to this center. It started with $10 million. 3 years later, it increased its contribution by 10 times. Saudi Arabia donated $100 million to the Counter Terrorism Center. This is significant because this center survives on donation. What it gets from the United Nations budget covers only 4% of its expenses. The rest of the money comes from member states as donation, and the Saudi cash makes up 47% of the entire fund. You can say that Saudi Arabia is the lifeline for the United Nations Counter-Terrorism Center. The question is, why does Riyadh spend this kind of money? Is it suddenly so serious about fighting terrorists? Or is it more interested in controlling and directing this fight? Saudi Arabia wants to influence the United Nations, and it is spending money to buy that influence. This report levies another major charge. It says Saudi Arabia's influence and power is hard to measure, but those within the UN know it all too well. Let me give you specific examples from the report. Number one, Saudi Arabia decides who will be in charge here. Its ambassador to the United Nations has been the chair of this center's advisory board since the year 2012. For 8 years, they've controlled it. Number two, Saudi Arabia decides where the meetings will be held. At least 2 board meetings of this center have taken place in Riyadh. One meeting took place in 2018. It was attended by Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Number three, Saudi Arabia decides how the money will be spent. In 2018, the United Nations conducted an internal audit of the center. Apparently, the Saudis did not like it. So a new audit was ordered. What specifically did Riyadh object to? It was not happy about a proposal in the audit report, a proposal that recommended a new system of functioning. In other words, an end to Saudi Arabia's influence. The advice was very specific. It said that the role, the membership, and the working methods of the center should be reviewed. Its funding should be diversified. The report was junked. A new audit was ordered. But Saudi Arabia is still not happy. An insider in the ruling Saudi elite feels that Riyadh does not, quote-unquote, get much from the UN center for its money. And this is where Pakistan comes in. This man on your screen is a Pakistani origin diplomat. His name is Jahangir Khan. He is the director of the United Nations Counter-Terrorism Center, and he's said to have close ties to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. This report calls him, and I'm quoting again, the Saudi whisperer. I must say here that there is no direct evidence against Jahangir Khan, no substantial proof that he is influencing United Nations counter-terrorism efforts on behalf of the Saudis or the Pakistanis, but there is a shadow that he cannot shake off and many uncomfortable questions that have still not been answered. Jahangir Khan started his career as an international diplomat with the Saudi Arabian mission to the United Nations. The association is a long one. He has spent more than 20 years in the UN, and according to one claim, Khan is goal-oriented but secretive. Another person says that Khan takes over projects that will, quote-unquote, satisfy the Saudis. There's another red flag. High-level UN staff members are required to file a financial disclosure form. All of them have to file it, but it's up to individual members whether they want to make it public or not. Jahangir Khan has kept his financial disclosures private. Why is that a problem, you may ask? Because as a UN servant, Jahangir Khan was also able to buy 2 apartments in the Trump World Tower at the UN Plaza. These are properties worth well over $3 million. Where did that money come from? Rumor mills have been churning. Questions are being asked. How can a UN official afford premium property like this? Jahangir Khan denies all charges of impropriety. What about the United Nations? The charges are very serious, and the facts that are public raise concerns over the ability of the UN to run counter-terrorism efforts without getting influenced. In the year 2016, the then UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon made a very serious accusation. He said that Saudi Arabia was exerting unacceptable and undue pressure on the United Nations. This was after the Saudi-led military coalition for Yemen was blacklisted. They were blacklisted over the deaths of hundreds of children in the war in Yemen. The Saudi coalition was found responsible for these deaths. In response to the blacklisting, Riyadh threatened to cut funding to United Nations programs. What did the UN do in the face of these threats? It removed the Saudi-led coalition from the blacklist. As simple as that. And the money continues to flow. As of July this year, Saudi Arabia is the world's largest donor to the United Nations Counter Terrorism Office. It's a textbook case of quid pro quo. And as I said, another United Nations sham. And in case you did not know, Saudi Arabia was also the head of the United Nations Human Rights Council last year. I don't want to get started on that one.